excited to be here to do
My name
this.
is Laura Foster.
Guitar player extraordinaire slash resident fun guy at Northside Baptist
Trio
Church.
Quinn. I'm actually Charlie's cousin.
Little Baker.
My name's Blandon. I'm a junior at Lowndes High
Drew
School.
Peterson. I'm a student at Lowndes High School.
Alright, welcome back to the podcast today, and I'm so glad to have you on today, Blandon. If you just introduce yourself and we'll just keep on going.
Hey, hello guys. My name is Blandon Causey. I'm from St. Mary's, Georgia, and so just to get into my testimony, growing up, me and my family, we were, in and out of church, and my grandma was really the only spiritual, figure, that was in our household, and so I was, going to church, growing up with her and stuff, and just an interesting, fact. So my name Blandon, comes in from, I was named after a pastor. His name was Leslie Bland. He was very, close to my family, and had very strong community ties, back from my hometown, and because of that, relationship that he had with my family, my grandma thought it would be, to ask for his blessing,
right?
To be named after him,
Right.
And rest in peace, to Mr. Bland. He's been, gone for a few years, but I'm gonna continue to, try to, continue his legacy.
And I was wondering about your name because it's very unique. Like, because I know, I'm sure at some point I was thinking about this. There's no way you've not been called just like Brandon.
Yeah, I get a lot of Brandons, and all that stuff, or
like
Landons.
Just because of the fact that Brandon or Landon is the more common name. But it's like, because I remember I looked at, I think I'm gonna get into this later, like the DNOW list, and I was like, wait, Blandon? Oh, that's how you say it. Got it. Okay. And because it's like you combine like Landon and then Brandon and kind of together. So that's really cool though to hear about your name, but more about your testimony.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, so going back into it, so it was around middle school when my family, kind of separated from my grandma, and we were just kind of going to church one Sunday, going and then not going for a couple Sundays.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of growing up, I always knew that God was pretty much evident, in my life, but I just really didn't know what to do or like how to explore. So I would say it was middle school, between 6th and 7th grade. Some things happened, within my family where I ended up in foster care, and during that time there was just a lot of confusion, a lot of anger and stuff. But the thing that really got me was during that time, I lost the closest persons to me. And that was my grandma. She was really someone I could look up to, because of her
her mature. In fact, like she's so mature in her faith, right? It seems like you really lean on her. Right?
That was, and so during that time, I lost her to cancer, and it was really then during that time where I just had to, really rely on God, for faith,
and that's hard
and just get me through that certain time period in my life.
When you lose a loved one like that, you're thinking, God, what in the world, right? And that's that's awesome that you did lean on God instead of drifting away, because people do one of two things: they either get closer or they drift away, right? And praise God that you got closer to Him during that time. So, yeah.
And so after all that went through, I started, being involved, in church more. I started attending, what's the church called? True Freedom Ministries, back in my hometown. Been there since like 2011, and I still, visit there,
I was tiny when you were going there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it was after that where I couldn't even tell you what my 11-year-old self was thinking at the time, but it was during that time where I basically, asked, to be baptized. I really didn't understand the true meaning of it until I got here. I'm here, Valdosta.
Yeah.
And with me, and so the reason why I'm, here, Valdosta is, I'm here for college. I'm criminal justice, major, and so
criminal justice. Wow. Yeah, I remember when you telling me that, and I was like, I didn't, because that is one profession you don't see a lot of people trying to go into nowadays. So so what? And you might have were fixing to say this, but what got you into that? Like,
so what got me to criminal justice was so in my family, my uncle and my great uncle and my grandpa, my uncle was worked in the police up in Atlanta, and my great uncle and grandpa, they both were in the military. They served in the Korean War,
Wow.
all that stuff. So I just kind of felt like this was the pathway I wanted to take, to be, because I wanted it to be for the community and just help others and stuff, and be a mentor for the youth.
Yeah.
Because of the relationships and stuff that I've had with law enforcement along the way.
Yeah.
And within that, I believe that God, can use me to share, His word, with, these
Right.
people.
And with how things are now, which you brought up a good point with the youth and law enforcement. You need to be there to show them that not all law enforcement are the same. They're different people, and that we're human, right? And that we all make flaws, things like that, and we all can love each other for that reason. Because I know that especially in recent years it's been flipped on its head.
Yeah, it's been everywhere, and stuff.
And I've always said, and I think I've said it here before too. There's bad eggs in every profession. You've got bad policemen and good ones. And the thing about it is, unfortunately, the bad, like the ones that are doing bad actions, those are seen.
Are seen more, portrayed more in the media.
Right, but then you have these awesome ones that are doing amazing things and serving their community well, but that's what you don't see, which is really a shame. And but I hope hey, as long I hope I get to see you doing good things as a law enforcement officer. Just don't pull me over when I start driving, just don't pull me over.
I got you.
But yeah, so to kind of move on a little bit, we talked about it some, but how in the world did you come to Northside? Like, I know you're here for college, but how did you land here?
That's a pretty interesting question. So, I came here to Valdosta in 2021, to start my freshman year. And so it was those first couple months, kind of, getting adjusted, to being on your own, figure out, navigate what you're trying to do,
Right.
college. It was during that time I realized that I needed to be, more involved, with the church. And so I was attending, another local church here in Valdosta during that time for about like a year and stuff. And it wasn't until when I came back from my sophomore year, that was when a good friend of mine, Tim Parker, he was telling me about Northside while I was attending this other church. And so I don't know what it was, but I felt like God was telling me in my heart to go explore my other options. And so I took that to myself, and so I started going to started attending Northside a couple times, and I don't know what it was, but it was just something about this church that made it stood out from any other church I've been to in my life. And so
and did you jump straight in, like surfing wise, didn't you?
No, I did not jump.
No, you didn't. Because from where I've seen you, you have, but maybe you didn't just jump straight in because it's been a while.
Yeah.
Because I remember, like, from when I met you, you already kind of started coming to.
Yeah, I started
stuff.
coming over then.
But because I know that I think we first met each other in the choir. That's what it was. Yeah. So I guess you took a look. So you were kind of exploring a little bit, figuring out what Northside was about. Okay, I got you. Because for some reason I thought you would just jump straight into stuff. But and I don't know if I'm sure you can say the same. But a lot of people, they've said that just the warm atmosphere when you come in the door. It's so evident, right?
It was so warm and evident, and that was one of the reasons why I started attending Northside was just being in fellowship with all these believers. And I have to say I have to say it, but I truly do believe that Northside has one of the best like Sunday services in the South.
Yeah, I mean, really, and especially when you're when you said like you said with being separated from your family and all that because you're in college, right? You want to find that those people that can be you can rely on while you're here, and grow relationships with, because it's a new place for you. Like for us, we've been living here for all of our lives, or whatever. But for you, it's a new place, and you got to find some people that you can trust and rely on. And I'm sure through Northside and the BCM, of course, like you found those people, and that's awesome, because I know that the youth is, and I know obviously the choir. I mean, not the choir, the college ministry is very tight knit.
Yeah, they're very.
Especially, I'm sure even the college is even more. So I mean, because I know you guys are a smaller group, which not to say that you're not growing, because you've had 60 to 70 people in your ministry, every night. But with like you going through the same struggles and trying to figure life out, and Will just he's not he's like been out of there only for a few years, I think. so he knows what you guys are
What
thinking
we're
right now.
going through, yeah.
You know, and that's so awesome to see where, you know, it's like with Noah and with Will, you know, they're in those positions, you know, to preach to both of us. And, you know, they had been in our positions just a few years ago, you know, and that's so cool to see how God's working.
Yes.
Right?
Amen to that.
You know, and I get, you know, I've loved every single youth pastor that I've had, which is only 2. I mean, that I've been under, but I've heard of 3. You know, Josh Johnson, Landon, McCaleb, and then Noah now. But I do think, you know, the way that that God's allowing Noah to work with his youth ministry, and actually, I know you can even see it.
Oh yeah, I can see it. You know, especially
but it's so cool to see. But yeah, I mean, so like DNOW, right?
DNOW, really great time. You know, for me, really great time.
Yeah, I mean. And I'm kind of skipping around a little bit. We'll go on to DNOW. I mean, dude, that was
a fantastic weekend. You know, that was really just truly, you know, such a humbling experience for me because, you know, when I first came to Northside, you know, I heard about, you know, DNOW because around the time, you know, I had got baptized. It was like last February, and then, you know, DNOW happened, you know, around that month. And so, you know, I heard about it. I was like, you know what, man, I definitely want to do this, you know, next year. And so, you know, within that whole year, you know, I just kept praying about it. And, you know, I was like, you know, why not, you know, just sign up. And then, you know, and it led me, to you.
Well, then, because I remember we met in the choir and then we saw each other in the college ministry. And then I'll never forget this because it cracked me up so hard. So, and you might know what I'm fixing to say, but it was when all the leaders, you know, for people that weren't there, they were all lined up in the front and all the youth are sitting in the pews. Well, you know, they get to Blandon, and what does he yell out? "Let's go, Charlie!" Yeah, it was like, that cracked me up so hard. Like, I thought that was the funniest thing ever. Like, but yeah, it was a really good time, especially, you know, it was so cool to, you know, for you and Will to be teamed up together.
And, you know, just kind of be able to, you know,
kind of be his, like, shadow in a way, like, you know, and learn from him, right? You know, on a, I guess not just a, you know, I mean, because, you know, he's your pastor, but on a more one-to-one, like one-on-one perspective. Yeah, which is really, really cool. You know, because that's, you know, for me, that was really cool. And I've mentioned it 1,000 times already, but, you know, in past episodes. But, you know, like working here and stuff, you get that one-on-one time with people that you wouldn't normally, and you get to see, like, their, you know, maybe like their quirks or how, you know, how they operate as a person. Not just, you know, not just, oh, they're my pastor. You know, because I mean, I'm not saying that everybody does this, but, you know, some people might just be like, oh, he's, you know, like Pastor Robbie, for example. Somebody might come in, they're like, yeah, he's the pastor. And then we hear his messages, he's a great guy, you know, and then we leave, you know. That's about the extent of our relationship. But, you know, I don't know about you, but I want to know a little bit more about, you know, because there's a person behind that role.
You right about that.
And it's so cool for, you know, especially with like DNOWs and all that, to see that. And it was so cool to meet you, and you know,
it really was you too, Charlie. You know,
you know, and man, like, we had a blast, didn't we?
We really did, you know, especially doing the scavenger hunt, man.
Yeah,
that was just really some really good, you know, bonding. I know those, you know, will come, you know, be there with us. You know, me being a leader, you know, really.
And were you nervous for that, Annie, when you went in? I mean, that was your first time, right?
Yeah, it was like, you know, my first time, you know, being a leader because, you know, I myself, you know, I tend to deal with, you know, like social, you know, anxiety. So like I said, you know, I'm not saying I'm an introvert, you know, I could converse with people, but, you know, just being a leader to, you know, you know, you guys,
right.
You know, at first I didn't really think, you know, I was going to, you know, live up to it, but you guys just, you know, I don't know what it was, but you guys really just, you know, touched my heart, you know, because just seeing guys, you know, love, you know, be so evident through you guys and us just being together, you know, in His Word, spending that weekend together was some great times.
And I'll tell you, you know, just a shout out to Will. Like, and you know, I might have already said this once before when talking about DNOW, but man, what a trooper he is. I mean, because he was sick pretty much the entire weekend, and still we did small groups, and he still, you know, because I know, you know, you were part of leading it as well, but you know, he was still the main leader. You know, him pushing through and leading it. I mean, what a trooper, man.
Amen.
Like, because if it was me, I'd be like, I gotta go to bed. You know, I mean, I'm just being completely honest. So I could not. I mean, I'd have to cut it like extremely short. You know, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I gotta get the cough medicine. Like, where's it at? You know. But he pushed through, and you know, that just shows how evident he wants to disciple. I mean, not, you know, because he's part of Noah's vision of the next generation, but also to help us understand. You know, and he knows that, hey, these are my kids coming up, so I gotta give a good example. You know, and it was so cool. To see, and also, and it was your first time seeing all these DNOW kids up on stage, huh?
Yes, and it was back to that, I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that was one of the reasons why DNOW was a humble experience for me, was because just being in the sanctuary, with all the youth, and then just seeing them profess that their love for Christ, for
was so much
God.
fun up there,
It
too.
was so amazing, and it just really touched me. And the one song, I've witnessed it. That one right there.
Kirsten Lay
Yeah,
did amazing with that.
she really did.
And, I'm not like ragging the original artist, but like I'm just saying she's one person and she's got more power than the two people that sing. I'm just saying.
Hey,
that's my
you might be
personal
onto
opinion.
something. You might be onto something.
Because wow, because I know that because before that I knew she could sing, but I didn't know she could sing with that much power, right?
Exactly.
And I was like, wow, she did absolutely amazing with it. And I know we had all a bunch of fun with Glorious Day jumping around. Dude, I got tired.
Yeah, jumping up
I
and
was
down.
like, and so for the first service, I was up on the top, I was thinking I was sitting next to you, and so I didn't kind of jump as much because I was like, don't fall or something. But then I got on the bottom row and I was holding on to that wall, and I was using the wall to push myself up, and then. But I'll tell you what was so funny too, and probably funny for you too, was watching Pastor Jeff jump around on stage with as much energy as we had.
No, for real. Yes, I remember that.
I was
yes.
like, Pastor Jeff is jumping as much as we are. I'm like, what's going on? Like, this is crazy. This is great. Because you never. And then Pastor Robbie in the second service, remember when he got the announcements, he boing boing, like he jumped a little bit too.
Yeah, a little bit,
and,
but not,
Oh, I would have, if he started like really jumping, I would have busted out laughing.
I know.
I would have laughed so hard. Yeah, DNOW was something else. I'm gonna probably, and I've talked with Mikey some too. We're probably gonna maybe, it's not set in stone, but of course, but I'm hoping that I can get with him with his smaller group at his church, and like he'll probably bring his church back over, and I could be like, his like, well, I don't know what I guess the other small group leader, and because I know some of the kids, and they're great. And I just feel like for me, it's like if I'm gonna pair it up with somebody, I'm gonna pair it up with Mikey because he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, Mike is a good guy, man. He really is.
And he's one of the first people that I've had on here, like episode 9. That's how far back I had him on. And if I'm like, because I want to, not just teach those kids, but I also want to learn too, because like, I'm still, we're always learning, but I'm still like, I feel sometimes I'm like. Oh, like I'm still really, 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 really learning. Like I've only scratched the surface in 2 years, and there's so much more that I need to understand. And I feel like I'm like, hey, Mikey, you wanna partner for this? Like, I've been more than happy to come along. Like, and his parents already said they were fine with it, so I was like, come on.
I got you.
So you've been in it a few times, but what got you coming and singing in the choir?
This goes back to when I was younger. So the church that was attending, it was a very small church. It was way less people compared to North Side. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But
that's gotta be a change for sure.
It was definitely a change, and so there's this one particular lady. Shout out to her. Her name's Miss Loretta. She was the pastor's wife. At the time, at the church, and she was very, she was a very single woman. She loved to be in the choir and stuff. So. She got me and a couple other kids, we did like a children's, choir. And so I was, we were doing that for a while, and then that just kind of fell apart, just stopped,
Yeah, it just stopped, right.
And so when I came to Northside, one of the first things that, that stuck out to me.
There's this big choir with orchestra. Yeah.
And so, the choir was one of the first reasons why I fell in love with Northside. And so I was just like, what are some ways, I could, definitely, serve, within the church. And so I was like, why not, just, join the choir. And so that's when, I met, Mr. Jeff, he's a great guy, phenomenal guy. And
Love Mr. Jeff.
And, just, me being in the choir these last, I would say, these couple months or this, past, school term.
Yeah.
It's been amazing, to see Jeff, lead, lead the choir.
I mean, and this is not me saying like, calling him out like in a bad way, but I mean, I don't know if you were up there then, you might have been, when he forgot the words one time, when, I think it might have been during Easter or something, but it's because he was worshiping so, like, because he just got so into it, and I'm not saying like, oh, he forgot the words, look at him. Like, we have a worship pastor that, he was so focused on God that he just forgot the words. And, hey, I'll take that any day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I mean, he does such a wonderful job, and it's so, like you said, it's so awesome to watch him. And I think I talked with this. Do you know Christina Williams? I don't know if you do or not, but she's an older lady that's in the choir here, and I was talking with her not too long ago, and we have like certain people that we like to watch, worship, like Pastor Avi, for example, and Laura, because we're on the guy side, so we get to see them more, and I love to watch Noah Blunt worship. That's so cool to see. Especially like with they had that college night or whatever.
Yeah, I really missed that. But man, I heard they did good. They
did great. But so if you've ever watched Mikey and you watch Noah, they both are very expressive when they worship, right? And they were standing next to each other during that college thing. I was like, man, it's like that section is on fire over there, But it was so cool to see. So now we're gonna go into some youth questions. So, or no, sorry, I skipped one. Hold up. So, what impact has Will and the college ministry had on you?
Okay, so first off, Will has definitely had a big impact, on me within this past year, especially because he made me realize the true meaning of what it meant to be saved, and I never really understood that for the longest. I couldn't really, find an answer, and so it was through with me meeting up with them a couple times. I finally got to know the understanding of it, and stuff. And it was that moment. Then I was like, God, if this is the way, or this is the church that, well, like what you're saying, if this is the way that, then let it be. Let it be your way.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
And so, after a couple talks with Will, that's when I basically confirmed the believer's baptism, and I was saved. And since then, it's been great. Just being involved, with the college, ministry. They're a great group of people to be around with. Especially because they've helped me, grow in my faith, and just keep reminding me at times that God loves you.
And
God.
This is just a hunch, and so you can say confirm or deny if it's not true or whatever. But it's like Drew Faircloth helped you in a big way, like because I know that you took a picture with him at DNOW, so I was just wondering.
Drew. Oh yeah, definitely Drew. My first time meeting him was at DNOW, but I don't know what it was, but how. And I truly believe this, to this day, but just like kind of how things, kind of coincide or something. But I don't know what it was, but that night, something drew me to Drew, and I was like, hey, I gotta, meet this guy, and stuff. Yeah. And since then, it's been great. He's a great guy. He's,
And when it comes to Drew, and I've said this again 1,000 times, I kind of repeat myself throughout the episode sometimes, but if it wasn't for Drew working through, or God working through Drew, half these episodes wouldn't exist. And why do I say that? Because a lot of them happened on a Wednesday night, and he invited me to Wednesday night. The first person to invite me to Wednesday night.
That's good.
And so, and that's why he's going to be episode 100, because that, it kind of ties everything together. But, that's just crazy to me that one person, again, we've all said this, one person can make that impact, and look what happens, right? Now there's, 80 plus episodes out, and we haven't stopped, which is really awesome. But, he's had an immense impact on me, and because we had a class together at Lowndes, we had it was engineering, and that was the first time I'd met him. But I remember, because I kind of felt bad, because I remember I'd met him and I talked with him. He was a great guy, and I talked with him and I was like, "Wait, your last name's Faircloth, isn't it?" And he said, "Yeah, it is." But I felt bad because some people didn't want to be his friend because his dad's an administrator. And no, if you guys are listening to this, I'm not like trying to bash them because they're both great people. But I felt bad for him because some people wouldn't want to be his friend because they're like, I'm afraid you're gonna rat me out if I do something wrong. And I'm like, well, first off, just don't do anything wrong. Like there is that. But also too, like you don't realize how cool this guy is.
Yes, Drew's phenomenal guy. And it's just to see what he does up there. UGA. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and I got some friends going up there. And I'm gonna tell Drew, I'm like, hey, you better watch. But you better watch after them when they go up there because I ain't gonna be able to, be with them. So you gotta give me updates on them or something. But okay, now we're gonna go into youth questions. I think I've got all that down.
I got you.
But when you look at the youth today, do you see hope, or are you worried about the future?
So, can you repeat that question one more time?
Sure, I can. When you look at the youth today, do you see hope? Are you worried? Or are you worried about the future? And you can also tie college into this as well.
All right. So when I look at the youth and the college, especially today, I would say I would be worried, but kind of hopeful at the same time.
It's kind of a mix.
Yeah, it's kind of a mix because, like I said, with just how the way things are going, in this world and what, the youth and I myself and college students are around, it's just, it's a very, it's a very lost world. And so that's why, it's important that, us Christians, we reach the youth because, that's God's kingdom. And, he wants, to see them, in eternity. And so that's why I think, it's just very important to, reach out.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, because, one example I brought up a lot, in the past is like social media. That's exploded, right? And I know that people, they just rag on it. Here's the thing: anything can have a good thing. It can be a good thing or a bad thing. Social media can be a great thing because you can promote. I guess I don't know the right term, pro Christ things, on the internet, and post it and help people. Whereas, you can do the opposite effect, and post things that are just against the Bible, against God, and and it be, or just post just I don't know, raunchy things, whatever, you name it, right? And then it goes against God. Well, then there's that con. So it's like there's a double-edged sword to anything like that, and because I know people all the time, they talk about, oh, so bad. I'm like, well, I've promoted every single episode on my podcast, and it's getting the word out, or people's stories out. So you want me to stop? Because social media is so bad. So again, it depends on how you use it, and that's for anything. It depends on how you use it. Especially if you're spreading the word, right? It depends on how you use something in order for it to be good or bad, And like if you're unsure about something, you could either ask them, or one, pray about it, and then two, ask them about, ask maybe like a mentor, you think I should be doing this, whatever, that's what I would say too, is, because there's some stuff you're not sure of, especially when it comes to all that stuff. Yeah,
I got you. And since you mentioned that's why it's important, that you have, believers, and stuff around you that can hold you accountable, for your actions and stuff. And that's something that you see in today's society, the lack of accountability.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, for sure. So if somebody walked up to you today, say a youth, college, whoever, walked up to you today and said, Blandon, I'm struggling to navigate this world in a biblical way, what advice would you give them?
What advice I would give them is that you do not need to be in things of this world. Maybe what you're feeling right now is of this world. What I would encourage that person to do is just find some time with God. Sit down with Him. Look into His Word. And pray about it. And one thing about prayer is prayer is not a chore. It's a part of your Christian faith. So that's something I would kind of encourage you.
That's really good. I like that. Yeah, prayer's not a chore. I'm gonna start saying that. That's good. But for my final question, and then we'll go into what your verse is. But my final question, what would you describe, what word would you use to describe NBC? So one word, and why? I know this is a difficult one.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. I've gotten, I've said family in the past, and that's been mine. But I've also, gotten, there's so many that people have given. It's hard to.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, man, what's a particular word?
Maybe like, man. I mean, if you want to, you can. How about this? You can be thinking about it, and we'll go to your verse and then think about it. So yeah, what is your, what's your life verse and why?
My life verse is Hebrews 11, and it says, "Now is the Hebrews." My fault. Hebrews 11, 1 through 3, and it says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtained a good report. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear."
So why is that verse important to you?
Okay, so this particular verse is really important to me because as I've gotten to grow within my faith and strengthen and grow closer to God, this particular chapter, Hebrews chapter 11, has really stuck out to me because it's basically talking about, having faith, and in your walk with God. And as long as you can have the faith, he will make a way for you. And so that's what I feel like this verses are reaching out and saying to me. And that's because, with, as I had mentioned earlier, with what I've been through, foster care, my grandma passing, and just being kind of, lost in this world for a little bit, but eventually, kind of finding my way back to God. That's because, I, reaffirmed my faith, and since then, he's been good. So that's why,
that's why
Hebrews,
that verse is so important to you. Gotcha. So, have you kind of thought of a word, like maybe in the back of your mind you can think of, like, I can give you one, like maybe, I'll say one thing for sure is warm, caring. That's some ones that I like to use.
I was gonna say, I've been thinking, majestic or something like that. I don't know, something. It's just
in the back of your mind. Yeah, and then and just the way God works.
Yeah, it's just the way that God. I've seen with my own eyes how God has moved within the church, and that right there, it warms my heart, and I know, and that just goes to show that God is love,
and how in a majestic way He's moved through the church. And that is the first time I've heard that one. I need to start writing these down. Like, who said this one? Who said that one? But that's a good one. Yeah, I really like that. But is there any final thoughts you want to say? Words of encouragement, prayer, anything like that before we get out of here?
No.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. And you never know. We might have to do this again. Yeah.
I got you, no problem. I appreciate your free time, Charlie.
Of course. With another episode of the Young Minds Podcast coming to a close, I just want to remind you that you are never alone and faith is action. So let's get out there.